I remember is the hydrogen of us. Oh, no. And that's what I was confused with. Because the hydrogen buses. Yeah. Don't you remember Coco? They had the big thing. Right, and it completely. So, yeah, I would think so. Yeah. What's going on? It happened. That's a good thing, though.
It is, it's very good.
Yeah, so we have to.
Dude, it's only $36. Target.
Yes. Here in person and online. We got a great crowd online. I just want to make note of those online. Last meeting, I didn't do a good job of pausing for people online to speak, so I have a large note today. It says pause for online. So after every item, I'm going to pause. Y'all online, y'all jump in whenever you need to. If we've determined we have a quorum, we're going to get started. First of all, I want to thank Dr. Raines for letting us meet here. Midlands Tech again. What a beautiful facility. And Dr. Raines, we appreciate you. I want to congratulate you. I saw in the news, Midlands Tech and Carolina signed an agreement this week. Do 2 years at Midlands Tech and then go to Carolina and finish your bachelor's. And you have 12 degree programs I read, biological sciences, health and exercise science, teaching and engineering. So that's a great opportunity for our young people, well, all ages. But thanks for Midlands Tech again, charting a new path. And you offer, anyone wants to take a tour after our meeting, they can do so.
Right, if you want to tour the health science facility, we'd love to show you our nursing program is the top of the world, so we'd love to have you tour it.
All right, very good. We're very kind, and we're gonna be meeting at your facilities, meetings here in 2022 also, not every time, because you have other events booked, but I believe Midlands Tech has been real popular with our board, and I see heads nodding, and so we appreciate you letting us be here. All right, we're gonna go on to our invocation, and Ms. Anna Harmon of our staff is gonna have an invocation for us. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just Heavenly Father, we thank you to meet once again. We ask that you bless us to make the best decisions on behalf of our regions. And we ask that you bless the food of those that prepare it in Jesus' name. Amen.
Thank you. We have a four yet, men. We're not gonna keep going. For those online.
Thank you. This is Collins.
I get an order. We do have a quorum. All right, so we have determined, Victoria, thanks so much. We determined we have a quorum, so that's great. We're gonna go on about our business then. Did Ben have any guests? All right, Ms. Harmon's gonna introduce our guests, and we're glad to have with us Ms. Harmon.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good afternoon. Today we have Bill Jordan with AECOM, Fred Frank with WSP, Kimberly Fontanez with Total Employee Sourcing LLC, Christina Lewis with SCDOT, Ledbetter with SCDOT, Holland Ledger with Lexington County, Yolanda Morris with FHWA, and Jeremy Knight. Thank you.
Very good, thank you, Ms. Harmon. All right. We determined we have a quorum. for our board. We have a overall agenda, order of contents of agenda. Is there a motion to approve our order of contents, the overall agenda?
So moved.
Mr. McLeod, second, Mr. Lyman. Questions or discussion? Not, if you are in favor of the overall agenda, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And we are approved. All right, we've had our invocation. Thank you, Ms. Harmon. First introduction, Ben, good news from the COG.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I have a few things I want to bring to your attention today. The Alonzo Latina Holiday Gift Drive was able to raise $3,500 this season, and that money will go towards about 40 to 70 different families throughout the Midlands region for purchasing 140 toys.
That's it for dirt, Mike. So
South Carolina, the Alonzo Latina Group also was able to get a grant of $479,000, which will be used to foster local food economy, research inequalities related to food insecurity, address local loss of farmland, and develop an action plan that promotes a thriving, equitable, and resilient local food economy. In the ombudsman program, they must visit at least 80% of all the facilities in our region each quarter, which is approximately 92 from October 1st to December 31st. Thus far, through December the 1st, they visited 76 facilities, so they're doing a great job. Ombudsman staff is also distributing resident right card, mask, and puzzle books during these visits. They are also addressing and advocating for residents related concerns reported during this visit. In the aging department, from November 16th to 17th, the Senior Resources Incorporated teamed up with our AAA to provide a vaccination clinic at the Lori Center located in Richland County. Future clinics are going to be planned throughout the other counties with support from the councils on aging. So we will hit the other parts of our region as well. The Fairfield County Council on Aging Senior Center construction is finally it's completed. The facility looks great, and the seniors are actually going back to the center. So that's some exciting news. In our workforce department, the Workforce Improvement Opportunity Act participation rates have actually doubled in the adult and youth programs from last year at this time. So that's a very good indicator of how things are going, considering the decrease in labor force participation and the increase in labor shortages. And then also they plan on collaborating additional opportunities through the EDA Good Jobs Challenge for support to the IT sector here in the region. And that's all I can say.
Good stuff, Ben. Please pass along our thanks to staff. Some are here and department heads. And thanks, sir. Please pass along our thanks. And a lot of good things going on. All right.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
If I could, I'm having difficulty hearing. I mean, I hear sounds, but I'm not necessarily able to discern what they are. And I think that was something about aging and facilities and so forth. But I wonder if there's there's obviously a speaker system somewhere engaged in here, and I wonder if we could hook up to that.
Well, we will look at that next meeting. Maybe Ben and I just need to talk better. How about that? Because I can hear you well.
And you can.
It's probably us up here. We need to speak louder. How about that?
I'm hearing you, you know, you're talking to me.
Yes, sir.
But it's when you're turned another way.
Yes,
it
sir.
doesn't come through as quick. Maybe the acoustics in the room.
All right, we're gonna work on that here. over the
Maybe
next-
my hearing.
We're gonna work on it in the next 30 minutes. See if we can do a better job. I appreciate that.
Thank you.
All right. Good news from around the region. All right, real quick, there's a lot of good stuff. I don't know if Mr. Greenwood's online, but Forest Acres was named best place to live in South Carolina by the website Stacker. Forest Acres scored an A+ after getting high scores for public school enrollment, diversity, family-friendly environment, health, jobs, home values, and costs. So congratulations to Forest Acres. And for y'all wondering, all the other Midlands towns finished second. We were tied for second as best place to live. So we all feel good about that. How about that? That's what we're gonna believe anyway. What y'all think? All right. American Spiral Well Pipe is expanding in Richland County, adding 100 jobs, announced yesterday. Congratulations to Richland County. Ben posted a very nice feature about ETD on the Sanctuary Boyd Park, which is at the meeting of Saluda Broad and Congo Reed Rivers. It's really nice. If y'all have a chance, check out that video. I'm hearing good things about Saluda River Greenway, which I know Richland County, City of Columbia involved in, and Reginald is also doing some work with COG on that, facilitating some meetings and projects. So good stuff going on at the river. The state paper reports today, discussions are underway for Pine Island to be transferred from Dominion to state government, and then Pine Island will become a state park. I think that is very exciting.
Hallelujah.
Yes, sir. It would be great for our Midlands and for Lexington County. So we're excited about that possibility. We also been hosted a lot of our member governments and communities have been busy hosting many successful Christmas parades and tree lightings. And then I had this, and so that's been good to see. And then I had this one among our board members. I don't believe he's here, but voting by readers of the state for the best of the Midlands, winner of the best seafood, our own Mr. Bill Dukes at Blue Marlin, and best shrimp and grits, Blue Marlin. So congratulations to Mr. Dukes. Sports news. I love sports news. Great Collegiate won the football state championship in Class 2A. Competitive cheer. Chapin won Class 5A, and AC Florida won 4A. So Chapin, AC Florida, Great Collegiate are state champs. Newberry College had one of our best seasons ever. We won the conference championship. We had a big win in the playoffs, and we went 15-4 over the spring and fall season. And finally, the #1 team in the country in women's basketball, of course, is right here in the Midlands, Dawn Staley's USC Gamecocks. So a lot of good stuff happening in the Midlands we can be proud of. If you have news you want to share, Ben can share on Facebook. Send us a note. We'll mention it here. But again, we have a lot to be proud of.
Can I add one thing?
Please.
Pine Island is not the only. Boundary Island, which is Sandy Beach, has been given to DNR,
Okay.
which has been, we've been working on that for 4 years strong. That's a very, hopefully it will be a nature preserve.
Well, that's great. That's good news. I look forward to hearing about that one and seeing that one down the road, hopefully as well. Thank you, Mr. Hudson. All right, regional spotlight. Each meeting we give and ask one of our member government board members to tell us something going on in their community. We're very pleased to have from Lexington County Council, Mr. Larry Brigham, for our regional spotlight. Thank you, sir.
Can I stand up here? That's
You can hear him well. Thank you, sir.
I'll look at you when I talk about it. I'm Larry Brigham. I'm with Lexington County Council representing District 2. Been on County Council since 2015, so I'm in my second term and running for re-election next year for a third term. A lot of things going on in Lexington County, in particular the moratorium, which was 6 months. We did decide to disengage it effective Saturday, I think, like Darryl, December 10th, instead of running it through its full term. But the purpose of it was to update the comprehensive plan, which we were very successful in doing. In particular, residential development, just concerned of the rapid growth headed toward Lexington County. How can we manage that a little better? So ordinance 2018, which was Darrell's baby, we did pass it, limiting houses 4 per acre throughout Lexington County. There's also a Lake Murray overlay from Chapin up into my district as well, limiting houses on certain roadways less than 4. 3, and some roads are actually 2 per acre max. So that has recently passed. So that's progress for Lexington County. We have 3 industrial parks, Saxgotha, Bexford, Leesville, and Chapin. Saxgotha is doing very well. It's almost to capacity. I don't know how many spots are available, but Lee Circuit could probably tell you. Bexford, Leesville Industrial Park in my district is doing very well. We put an auction in there last year, and we're putting one in next year. So things are jumping for Bexford, Leesville Industrial Park. That's a total of 3. But there's more spots available for anyone that's interested. Give me a call or call in Turkey. Sarah Johnson will be glad to help you. A little bit about myself. I'm a native of Bexford, Leesville. I have a business in Bexford, Leesville, State Farm Insurance. I've been there 35 years. I have 3 children that are also with State Farm, 2 sons and a son-in-law. I raised 3 boys. I have 5 grandsons. It must have something to do with the well water. It's got high levels of testosterone in the well water in Bexford, Leesville, obviously. So my second son and wife recently adopted a girl. So I am thrilled to finally have a granddaughter, and she has me by my pinky finger. I tell you what, it's just official several weeks back, but there's nothing like a granddaughter. So I thought I'd give her a shout out. Thanks for your time.
Very good. Excellent, appreciate that. I know y'all have the challenges about housing. That's interesting about the new ordinance you have in place. Could I ask you maybe send that to Ben and maybe send that out to the, I know it can.
Vince Turkey.
Oh, okay, great. Because these lots seem to be getting smaller and smaller for all of us. And I think y'all have an interesting idea I thought we could share. So thank you so much.
It has open space requirements as well, so it's more to it than anything else. When the trees up as well.
I like it. It sounds very good. Appreciate y'all sharing that with us and we can learn. Thank you so much. All right. Consent agenda, y'all have in front of y'all a consent agenda, which is the minutes of the last meeting and things we did at the last meeting. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda? Second. Any questions or discussion? If not, if you're in favor of approving the consent agenda, please say aye.
Aye.
And opposed? And that is approved. All right, one question, and I'm sorry, sir, your name again is Michael. Michael, you're fantastic. When folks want to ask questions, are we able to unmute them then?
They can unmute themselves,
They
or
can-
they can put a question in the chat.
Okay, they can unmute themselves. Okay, great. So we might have some questions coming up as we go to the regular agenda. Thank you, Michael. You're doing a super job for us. Item number 1, CMCOG codes NPO 2045 long-range transportation plan, enclosure 4 in your packet. Mr. Reginald Simmons.
Today we are requesting your adoption of the CMCOG Coastal Appeal 2045 long-range transportation plan. This plan was designed to incorporate the 2040 long-range transportation plan from 5 years ago on the coast side and the 2035 long-range transportation plan from CMCOG. We've been working on this plan for the past couple of years. WSP is our consultant. I'm asking Mr. Fred Frank, our project manager, to give you a presentation overview of the 2045 long-range transportation plan.
Thank you, Reginald, Mr. Chairman. Can everybody hear me okay if I just stand up here and I'll shout as best as I can? Good. So I'm just going to spend a couple minutes here giving you a quick update of the long range plan. The long range plan, it's required by the federal government. It's a 25-year look into the future. It's a blueprint for your transportation in the region. It has to be updated every 5 years. The last plan was the 2040 plan, so now we're into the 2045 plan. The study area, so we're doing 2 plans in one with this one. We're doing the MPO plan, which covers the area of the green, which is portions of Richland, Lexington, Fairfield, Newberry, Kershaw, and Calhoun counties. We're also doing the CMCOG RPO plan, which is that brownish area, which is the 4 counties of Richland, Lexington, Fairfield, Newberry counties, especially those that are underutilized outside, that's considered the rural area. So 2 plans in one. So what does this plan include? So it starts off with it's called a travel demand model. And it's a model that takes into account, as you were talking about, the comprehensive plans, all the future employment, population, land use in the region. It pumps this into a model and figures out what that is going to produce in terms of traffic, transportation across the region. So when we put that out to 2045, it helps us get a view of what are we going to need in the future versus what's happening right now. And that becomes our future transportation. We have a whole bunch of other transportation needs assessment. This is a multimodal plan. So we're not only looking at vehicle traffic, we're looking at freight, transit, bike ped, we're looking at safety. So it's truly multimodal in that fashion. It also has a component called the congestion management plan, which looks at real-time traffic and speed data. And it's a little bit different than looking out to 2045 roadway, because that tells us what roadways are congested now based on the traffic we're seeing. I'll talk a little bit more about that later. And there's a public engagement component too. So again, just some different aspects of this plan, truly multimodal in aspect. 4 goals out of this long-range plan. I won't read each of these, but these 4 goals basically set the stage for the transportation improvements in the region. So public engagement. This goes back to October 2020, when we had some listening sessions, 7 of those were 2 meetings. We had an online survey, which we got 200 responses. We have an interactive project map upline right now. I just checked this morning and 340 people have visited that. We have 1 comment, so maybe that's a good thing. Maybe our plan is good. And there's an online presentation up there as well. Just a couple quick things on what we heard in some of the surveys and the public outreach. What we heard about the region's transportation system. This is a kind of a graph of green is, we ask people, what do you think about the transportation system in the region? So green is, we think that's poor, and the gray is kind of the middle, the dark blue at the top is we think it's really good. So what we heard about being really good is roadway landscaping and signal systems were the 2 highest. The 2 lowest were actually bike lanes and bike ped safety. So that just tells us what our system is right now. When we ask them, okay, what are the greatest transportation issues? What should we be focusing on? The interesting thing here is roadways came out on top 49%, and the bike ped and that sort of thing wasn't top priority, so 83% was the third or fourth priority. So people are telling us, yeah, it's an issue, but it's not our top issue, it should be second, third, maybe even fourth, road rage is still number one. Then when we ask which we'd be investing in, the first priority is the darker bar. People told us the first priority should be widening existing roads and maintaining those roads, and that's pretty large first priority there. So that's just a glimpse of what we heard from the public. This plan has to be financially constrained, which means we can't propose a whole bunch of projects that we know we can't pay for. So the federal government says you can only put the projects in your plan that you know you can pay for. We call it a fiscally constrained plan. You can put other projects in there, we call them aspirational, and if some other legislation comes around and there's more money available, we can fund those projects. So working with this plan in the MPO section, we have $466 million of money to work with in 2045. And then in the RPO area, we have $79 million to work with for new transportation projects. So that doesn't account for those projects that are already committed or in design or are going to be built. These are those new projects. So then what that gives us is, and I'll show you that link right up there. That's that map that I've said had 340 visits so far. So that link is, it's a map to identify all the different projects. What we come up with are 21 projects, widening projects in the urban area that account for about 465 million. So just under that 466 million threshold. 61 projects that we're calling aspirational. So if you add those two up, that's over $2 billion. So we don't think we can afford all those based on the current funding level. So 61 of those projects these would be great if we got more funding kind of thing. 52 intersection projects. We typically don't list intersection projects as part of that financially constrained. That usually comes from a different pot of money, or you need to move some projects if one of those becomes a priority. In the rural area, we have 4 rural widening projects that account for $71 million. 2 additional aspirational projects, add those both up, we're at $146 million. And then 43 rural intersection projects. So that's what's laid out in the plan. What also is in the plan is approximately 100 or so like and pet projects that come from a different pot of funding than the financial constraint. Congestion management plan, I mentioned that this tells us where those congestion bottlenecks are. It's not meant to be an entire long corridor like a transportation improvement project would be. These are those areas where there's maybe an intersection or interchange or just a bottleneck that happens in certain times or during holidays. Those are things we can improve, hopefully, without widening the road. So there's a whole handful of strategies we can use without widening the road to address that. And if you go to the next one, we started this analysis, so we still have a little bit to go, but what this shows you is one corridor where the reference speed and, no traffic is 42 miles an hour, but throughout the day shows you what people are actually traveling at speed wise. You can see how that fluctuates throughout the day. So that gives us an indication. If we go back and look at that, say, okay, what's causing that speed to be lower? Is it a traffic light? Is it some kind of a bottleneck? Can we correct that in the turning lane, something like that? And so what we'll end up with is a map of the whole region to give us an idea of where the congestion is occurring. And that's that. The next steps. This goes out for review now, and we will still make some small tweaks to this based on comments that we hear from you all in the public. So,
Mr. Frank, thank you. Questions from Mr. Frank?
Yes, sir.
What about how do you handle a projected increase in population? I was just thinking, 2045 is a long way away. Given the increase in population that South Carolina has experienced just in the last 10 years, let's say, and we've got 2.5 more 10-year periods to go before you get there. I'm just curious as to what kind of numbers you're using and where you get them.
So that data comes from a data source called Woods and Pool. Woods and Pool.
What?
Woods and Pool. So it's a data source that projects economic and population growth based on trends and what they think. So it's a little bit of best guess based on how things have been going. And nobody can really tell up to 24 exactly what's going to happen. So it's based off of some historical trends, but also where those trends might lead in the future. And then what we do with the regional model is try to distribute that growth the best possible based on comprehensive plan, zoning ordinances, where that growth can occur and where it can occur.
Yes, sir.
My question, did you, what was, I'm not sure what the number was on input that you had from response, public response.
So there were, on the survey responses, we got 200 survey responses. We had 7,
And what group was that taken from? Elected officials?
no, that was everybody. That was anybody and everybody who wanted to participate.
See, it's always my concern, and I don't want to blame citizens, but if they don't know to make input, they always complain after the decision's made. But always, the most positive way to do it is to get as much input as you can, so you went to everyone. I just wondered if that was skewed by public officials or city officials or.
No, I don't think that was skewed at all. It was available. We actually invited certain people to those lists.
And I know it's a challenge, always trying to get input.
And this was in the middle of the pandemic too, so we're trying to reach
Exactly.
people virtually the best we could.
Does anybody online have any questions, please? Unmute yourself and ask.
Yeah, I have a question.
Go ahead, please.
Yeah, Julian Barnes, Kershaw County. Merry Christmas, everybody. Yeah,
Wait a second.
2045 is a long way out. And it's for sure the Coates and MPO will move into Kershaw County. At least that's my conviction, once we know the results of the census. So how would you adapt this plan if more of Kershaw County comes under CMCOG?
So, Mr. Burns, what we've done in anticipating that is that we've taken into account as part of our travel demand model to already incorporate portions of Kershaw County that we would anticipate coming into the MPO. But please understand that this is a living document. So once we do get that final word or whether our MPO boundary is going to expand Kershaw County and where it's going to expand Kershaw County, we will always revisit this plan. We have to revisit it every 5 years. And we will then make the necessary updates to make sure that we incorporate the necessary area for Kershaw County and make sure that we're capturing all the needs throughout our entire transportation network.
Very good. And Ms. Newton, in our executive sessions, Ms. Newton of Richland County made a good point. It is a living document that can be adjusted. It will be. It not only can be, but will be. Will be. And we'll be sitting here in 5 years, we'll be with the same process again. All right, other questions of Mr. Frank? All right, so it's online. People can make comments now. And the idea is today we'll pass first reading. And then you all are gonna look for more comments. And I think it's interesting, Reginald, they can see online what are the priorities. All right, also, Ben, are you gonna email this PowerPoint to everybody? Yes, sir. There are some good slides there, so you'll be emailing this to everybody. We can review. And then if people have questions, we'll look at it again in January and hopefully get a second approval. If we do first approval today.
Like to move for first approval, please.
Yes, sir. Thank you. And a second. Very good. Other questions or discussion, including online? We have motion second to approve the 2045 long range transportation plan. If you are in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
And opposed? And that passes unanimously. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you. Yes, sir. Item number 2, fiscal year 2022-2025 COG codes MPO transit asset management plan. Mr. Reginald Simmons, item 5, enclosure 5.
Staff request for approval to adopt the CMCOG Coastal Mayo Group Transit Asset Management Plan. EJC must develop a transit asset management plan or TAM plan if it owns, operates, or manages capital assets used to provide public transportation or receive federal financial assistance as recipient or subrecipient under federal guidance. CMCOG is the designated recipient for the SEP 5310 program. The primary purpose of this program is to provide transportation options to the elderly and persons with disabilities. CMCOG works with human service agencies to administer this program on an annual basis. Human service agencies apply for this funding to purchase vehicles to serve their clientele. Currently, we have 5 sub-recipients. They include the Babcock Center, Senior Sources, Irma Chapin Recreation, Mental Illness Recovery Center, or Mercy, and the Kershaw County Board of Disabilities and Special Needs. Our current vehicle inventory includes 16 vehicles. 5 are owned by or are being used by Babcock Center. 2 are being used by Irma Chapin Recreation Center, 1 by Kershaw County Board of Disabilities and Special Needs, 5 by Mercy, and then 3 by Senior Resources. CMCOG is a tier 2 agency, which simply means that we are the direct or designated recipient of the Section 5010 program and or the Section 5007 program. As a tier 2 agency, our town plan must include an inventory assets, on the condition of those assets, a description of the decision-making support tool, as well as a prioritized list of investments. As you can see from this table, if I can't see, it's too small to see, we have a total of 16 vehicles. 10 of those vehicles are considered to be cutaway buses, 3 are minivans, the other 3 are simply vans. The average age of the cutaways is 3 years old, the average age of the minivans are 4 years old, and the average age of the vans are 2 years old. The average mileage of the cutaways is approximately 33,000 miles. For the minivans, it's 27,000, and for the vans, it's 8,500. All vehicles are considered to be in good conditions. When you look at it from a federal regulated useful life standard, cutaways have a 10-year useful life, minivans and vans have an 8-year useful life. So in total, none of the vehicles have met and their useful life. They're well below that standard. As you mentioned, the quantities are 16 in total, 10 cutaways, 3 vans, 3 minivans. We will establish performance targets for anticipated growth in these category classes. 50% for the cutaways, 50% for the vans, and then 20% for the minivans. Maybe have a question on this.
The Workforce Development Board, our Disabilities Committee, is concerned about the individuals with disabilities being able to get to a job interview. Would you keep that in mind and help me come up with a way that maybe some of these vehicles or additional vehicles could be used in that endeavor?
Yes, sir.
We've got disability people that the transportation is a major problem, and we want to try to help in any way we can.
Yeah, sir.
Thank you, Reg.
Mr. Davis, appreciate that. Thanks, sir. All right, we have no other questions at this point. Is there, online, anybody got any questions? All right. We would accept the motion to approve the performance management targets established by Central Midlands Council of Government. Is there a motion, Mr.
So moved.
I believe.
And a second.
All right, Mr. Davis, and I missed somebody there. I apologize. I got you next time. Any other questions or discussion? If not, are you in favor of this endorsement of these performance management targets? Please say aye.
Aye.
And opposed? And that is approved unanimously. Item number 3, resolution to apply for federal and state grants. Enclosure 6. Mr. Simmons, this should take 30 seconds.
Staff request your approval to execute the current federal and state grant resolution that's included in your packet. Each year, staff requests approval of a grant resolution that allows the executive director to file and execute federal and state grant. Grant opportunities are provided to CMCOG by FTA, Federal Highways, and NCDOT. CMCOG uses these grant opportunities to assist in the development of transportation plans, studies, and projects, and the payment of salaries. These plans, studies, and projects are identified in either our LRTPs, urban and rural, our work programs, urban and rural, or even our TIPS, urban and rural. Our project plans and studies are developed to meet the federal and state requirements, which include Title VI requirements as well as DBE requirements. In order to continue our transportation planning efforts, we request your approval of the enclosed resolution.
And if you're against this, you're probably on the wrong board, is what I'm thinking. You're against applying for grants. So we would accept the motion. Mr. Bell, second, Mr. Hudson, any questions or discussion? If not, if you are in favor of us applying for this resolution to apply for federal and state grants, please say aye.
Aye.
And opposed? Thank you very much. Item 4, 2020-27 TIP amendment, CMRTA, low no grant. Electric buses. By the way, is anyone online from the comment? Yes, Michelle Ransom, and we possibly chatting about it. All right, we might have a couple questions for y'all in a minute, just general interest about electric buses, if y'all can be prepared. Mr. Simmons.
Staff is requesting your approval to add approximately 2.9 million in Section 5339 funds for the low-no grant program. FTA announced the availability of 180 million in fiscal year 2021 funds to purchase or lease low or no emission vehicles, as well as related equipment or facilities. The main purpose of the low-no grant program is to support the transition of the nation's transit fleet to the lowest polluting and most energy efficient transit vehicles. The low-no grant program provides funding to state and local governmental authorities for the purchase or lease of zero emission or low emission transit buses, including acquisition, construction, leasing, and required supporting facilities. The Common is currently going to use this funding to purchase 4 vehicles. 2 are going to be battery electric buses. The other 2 are going to be fuel cell buses and the necessary equipment for charging and hydrogen refueling infrastructure. These 4 buses are going to replace 4 2016 Starcraft All-Star Cutaway buses that will reach the end of their useful life in 2023. The Commons is looking to invest both in both leading zero emission technologies, which includes battery electric and fuel cell electric buses, as well as to deploy these buses on the existing routes. The common goal is to reduce local emissions, expand their zero emission fleet, as well as to continue to improve air quality. Since these are federal funds that are going to be spent within the Coast MPO planning area, they must be included into the Coast TIL. I request the data to include this approximately 2.9 million in Section 5339 funds for the low-no grant program.
Very good, and we're pleased to have our friends from the Comet join us today. We had a couple questions come up earlier in our executive committee, Mr. McLeod, Mr. Hudson. One, will this be the first electric buses for the Comet, which we were kind of excited about? And then number 2, what is the mileage range on an electric bus? And just any other information one of y'all can share. And thanks for joining us, please.
Well, hello, this is Michelle Ransom from Comet. In answer to your first question, yes, this will be the first electric bus in our fleet. We're really excited about that. We did test a hydrogen fuel cell bus, I think way back in 2008 when they were first starting out. But this will be a new iteration of that, so we'll have 2 of each type. As far as the range, I don't know exactly a number to give you. I do know that they will last both the electric and the hydrogen on all the way up to any of our longest routes without needing to refuel or come back to the yard until it's over. I can get more definitive information on that if you'd like.
Very good. All right. Mr.
Michelle, is this part of a test proposal, or is it a long-term plan to go to entirely the system being electric buses?
It is a little bit of both. We applied for the low-no grant for both fuel types so we can compare them before we make a major expenditure into either one and then end up not liking it. So this way we can compare the 2, have the infrastructure for both to build on later. And as we start replacing vehicles, we can replace with whichever fuel type works best for us here.
So there's not a definitive plan to make the entire system electric at this stage?
It has not been written into a plan, but I know that is the direction our board is going. Yes.
Okay. What happened to the hydrogen station and the hydrogen bus that was paid for?
That was paid for? That was a test that back in 2008, the hydrogen fuel station was built. It is no longer able to fuel the type of vehicle that we will be getting. So we will have that on our property for the hydrogen fuel cell bus. And that bus was taken, the 2008 bus was taken to different properties and tried in different locations with different terrains.
Ms. Ransom, what's the timetable for this?
We should have the buses here on site in 2023. We're replacing some vehicles that do not age out until then. And typically the way things are going, especially with trying to get parts and such now, it is typically a 1-year endeavor to get new vehicles. And with everything going on in the world, it's probably going to be closer to 1.5 to 2 years.
Yes, sir.
What is the what is the difference in cost for these electric buses over the regular kind of bus that we're using now?
I can tell you that the fuel cell bus runs about 950,000 per unit. The electric bus is about 845,000 per unit. And let me see if I can tell you exactly what we paid for our last 35-foot diesel would be around 475 for 475,000 for a 35-foot diesel bus.
Wow, so it's about twice as expensive to do the electric?
Yes, it's significant. That's why we were kind of waiting and applied for these low-no grants for, I think it's been the last 4 years, in hopes we could, you know, get some money to help us out. So we're not putting as much of an expenditure into it. And then we can test it, see if we like it, and go from there.
Very good. All right.
Mr. Chairman, can I ask one more question? So based off of Mr. Pass's question about the actual capital expenditure, do we know what the difference in the annual operating cost is going to be?
It will be lower as far as fuel consumption, of course, but I'm not sure. I think we're just gonna have to wait and see as far as maintenance costs, because that's gonna be something brand new for us.
Did she say that maintenance cost would be higher?
She said they didn't know. They'd have to.
They didn't know.
they'd have to
Okay.
Test it out, and see what costs are incurred.
I would
Yes, sir.
offer, excuse me, I would offer that Rock Hill's had a small fleet operating for a couple of years and may have a little bit of data on what they're seeing on ROI as well as maintenance costs.
All right, Ms. Ransom. Rock Hill's been mentioned here, so maybe somebody to get with and get some information as a possibility. They have 3. Okay, very good. All right, well, this is a very interesting discussion, and this was a pass-through, basically, Mr. Simmons. But is there a motion to amend the 2020-27 TIF to add $2.9 million in section 5339 for the low no grant funds to purchase 4 vehicles for CMRTA? Comment, is there a motion for that?
I move for approval.
Mr. Davis? Do we have a second? Second, Mr. Bell. Other questions or discussions? If not, you in favor of this for 4 electric buses, please say aye.
Aye.
And opposed?
No.
No.
That may be symbolic,
I
but
understand.
I think it's a little early myself.
Any? So we have 1 no, I believe. Is that everybody checking in? All right, and so that passes. Ms. Ransom, thanks for joining us today. And in 2023, when I say electric bus in Columbia, I'm gonna say I voted for it. So, and so we got to be proud of that. Test it out. Thank you, Ms. Ransom. All right, item number 5, 2035 LRTP. And his acronyms are tough. And 2020-2027 Rural Tip Amendment, Macedonia Church Road Resurfacing Project, enclosure number 8. Mr. Simmons.
Apologize for all the acronyms. That's just what transportation is about.
Right.
Staff request your approval to amend the 2020 to 2027 TIF or Transportation Improvement Program and the 2035 Long Range Transportation Program to add $6.8 million in guide share funds for the Macedonia Church Road Resurfacing Project. Macedonia Church Road is a 10.3-mile corridor that extends from Rapids School Road in the town of Prosperity to Edgewater Drive in Newberry County. It's a federal aid eligible secondary roadway. Using engineering directive 64, as the DOT District 4 has reviewed and ranked this project for resurfacing. Due to the limitation in funding, as the DOT stated that this project is between 3 to 5 years away from being completed. So they'll probably put you on the list. As the DOT estimates the project cost to be approximately $660,000 per mile, which gives a total estimated cost of $6.8 million. Currently, this roadway presents a safety risk as it has a fluctuating lane width between 20 to 26 feet. Based on the 10-year plan to meet structural pavement standards, it would be more cost effective to perform a full depth reclamation of this roadway. As the DOT has provided some crash data regarding which areas exceed the current statewide average. Currently, property damage only crashes, rear end collisions, head-on collisions, runoff the road collisions, and night crashes all exceed the existing statewide standards. Roadway departures are a major factor in fatalities on SCDOT's roadway rule system. Staff is recommending to amend our 2035 long-range transportation plan as well as our 2020 to 2027 rural transportation improvement plan TIP to add $6.8 million for resurfacing of the Macedonia Church Road. Happy to answer any questions.
Mr. Chairman, this is Vanna Abrams, and I move for acceptance of this, not because Prosperity is my former hometown, but because this is needed.
Thank you, Ms. Abrams. Is there a second? Questions? All right, we have a motion by Ms. Adams, second Mr. McLeod. If you're in favor of the Macedonia Church Road resurfacing project, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And that passes unanimously. Item number 6, one annual listing of obligated projects. Mr. Simmons, enclosure 9.
Staff is requesting approval to adopt the FY21 annual listing of obligated projects. Under federal requirements, CMCOG must create an annual listing of obligated projects. The purpose of this report is to identify and list federal obligations that were approved on projects in the previous fiscal year. The current report for FY21 started October 1st, 2020, and ended September 30th, 2021. The projects shown in the report are identified in the 2020 to 2027 TIP, as well as the 2021 to 2027 STIP. Project categories that you see listed include safety improvements, signals, resurfacing projects, preservation, widening projects, bridge replacements, signings, emergency repair, and interchange improvements. When we review the report, the column that is 7 columns over identifies the funding transactions that have occurred in the previous fiscal year. The column next to it identifies the federal funds that have transactions in the previous fiscal year. In total, the funding transactions that have been obligated in the previous fiscal year is $260 million. The federal funds that have been obligated in the previous fiscal year is $207 million. We're happy for you to adopt this report. I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
All right, do we have anybody from DOT online, by the way, who could answer a couple questions? Or in person?
This is Christina Lewis. I work in the planning office. I can try and answer some questions if possible.
Thanks for joining us. We appreciate it. And this came up before, and Mr. Cullen from Lexington asked this earlier. And I'm sorry to put you on the spot, but that's kind of my job. When money, and Mr. Cullen, correct, if I don't ask this correctly, but let's say a project, you're doing a project in one of our counties and you end up changing it so you don't spend all the money. Does the money stay in the Midlands or does it go back into the entire system? That was one question we had statewide.
Well, it's just going to go back into the whole fund, if that makes sense. It doesn't go to a particular county, or I'm not sure if I'm answering your question right. It goes back to Coates or Central Midlands guide share pot. I think that's what you're asking.
Let's stay here.
But what she's saying is that it goes back into the funding program where it came from. So Coates,
okay.
If it's Coast guide share, then it's gonna come back to us.
Okay.
If it's a statewide program that interstates, it's gonna go to that program.
Okay. That was one question, and also just for our board, we had some other questions that executive committee did, and we've asked the transportation committee, Mr. Livingston and Mr. McLeod, to look into those and come back with a report. Mr. Cullen, if you're online still, did you have any comments you wanted to make, please?
Yes, sir, and thank you for that opportunity to follow up. So as I understand it, that when the project is reduced in cost or either eliminated altogether, it goes back into the general fund. So can you give us some sort of guidelines as what is creating some of the project cost reductions? Again, as we were talking about in the executive committee meeting, is the federal government is talking about expanding infrastructure, but yet we see some of these projects either going away or either being reduced in cost. And I'll just give you one example of that recently that actually spurred the thought of why I'm asking these questions is that years back, we started out with a full intersection replacement. Then we went to a bridge replacement, and now we're in a bridge rehab. So if it was determined at an earlier time that the intersection needed to be replaced, the entire intersection, the interchange, bridge and all, I'm just curious how it's come now that all it needs is a bridge rehab. Are you using new data from ADT? Are we reevaluating how we're expending, I guess, monies across the entire state? Again, are we seeing these kind of reductions in other COGs, particularly upstate and the coast?
That's probably more of a question for a program manager, but I know that with the bridge program in particular, we are looking at whether or not bridges need to be completely replaced, or if they can be rehabilitated and still have a lifespan of another 25 years, then that's more of a cost-effective measure. And so that would allow us to tackle some of the other bridges that we have on our list. As far as that particular intersection, I don't know. You would have to ask the particular program manager, but I'm sure that if the project did change, then it would have been because of information that they encountered.
Okay, well, that's, I know that you're not the program manager, but that's really interesting to hear that being stated, you know, from a DOT, I guess, perspective of which you can provide for us. Because ever since the institution of the new penny tax, we've been told that the programming is for interstates, bridges, and rural road safety construction. So if now we've been programming all these monies for bridge replacements of all that have been on the list, and now it's determined at a later date that we're not going to do the bridge replacements, it seems it may be an opening that we can use these funds for other projects other than what we've been told time and time again because of the new gas tax collections. Now,
well,
if I'm mistaken or I'm incorrect in saying that, I know there are a number of people that are on the COG that serve with me that have heard this exact same mantra that we're spending money from the gas tax collections on interstate highways, bridges, and rural road safety programs. So to only see now that we're reevaluating bridges that again 4 years ago or 5 years ago were determined it needed replacement. And that's from a structural deficiency standpoint, not just because, you know, this bridge is 40 years old. The Gervais Street Bridge is probably 80 or 90 years old. I don't see it on the list for replacement. Again, it's just really confusing to follow along, and we go through this process for year in and year out. And as we start working towards, at least some of us at the local level, telling people in our local jurisdictions, these projects are coming along, only to see them now go away or be, you know, drastically reduced in scope.
Yeah, and that's that's something that our bridge maintenance folks, they do that evaluation. So if the project gets reduced from a complete replacement to a rehabilitation, it's still, you know, it still is, they're not going to do that unless that's safe to do, if that makes sense. And then the funds that we save from not doing the full replacement, they go back into the bridge fund, you know, in order to replace other bridges that need attention.
Yeah, I just bring the bridge replacement project as just one example. I mean, as you go through this entire obligated list, you can find it in almost any subcategory. Like right now, I'm looking at interchange improvements, and there's some reductions in the interchange improvements. So I guess we're gonna say when this project was put on the list that it needed a full rehab, and now we're only gonna do maybe one side of the interstate or just do, road resurfacing in the a current interchange. So I guess what we're trying to do at our local level is to have some consistency as to how we continue to plan. And when we go out and tell the public, these interchanges or these bridges or these road widenings are expected at X date because this is what we're being told. So then we lead up 5 years after we've been led to believe some of these projects are taking place, only to find out that they're being drastically reduced. It's like a program that happened in Lexington County many, many years ago, that when you made it into the top 25 of road conversion from dirt to pave, you couldn't come out of that top 25 status, because what would happen every year, every other year through the evaluation process, one year you might be 10 and the following year, because of what all the other roads that came on the system or the requests that came into the system, you may have left number 10 and ended up at number 40.
And
So
Ms. Lewis,
I don't know how we effectively plan and be consistent when we go out and look at this list year in and year out, only to see them start to change.
And Mr. Coleman, we appreciate your comments. And Ms. Lewis, thank you for jumping in today and answering some questions. You know how much we appreciate DOT. And is that, Ms. Lewis, what we talked about was our transportation committee, as mentioned, Mr. Livingston, Mr. McLeod, Mr. Coleman, Mr. Brigham, I believe is vice chair too, will be joining in on that and maybe get with some DOT representatives just to go with some specific questions. Would that be okay, Ms. Lewis, you think, with y'all?
Yeah, that would be good to get some folks that are more knowledgeable in those specific areas. Yep.
That'd be great, Ms. Lewis, and we appreciate you. And Ms. Lewis, that is great. Thank you. I do want to add one question from Mr. Burns. He says Kershaw County is again short on progress against our request to add our priorities. And this is not Ms. Lewis. This is to the board, Mr. Simmons and me, I guess. So kindly tell me how the TIP and when the projects we have long submitted will be added. And Mr. Simmons, on the long range plan, Mr. Frank went over. There are some items for Kershaw County, I believe, are there not?
There are projects that's in the prioritized cost constraint list. Actually, there's 3 projects that impact Kershaw County that are in the top 10. When you talk about moving projects from the long range plan to the TIP, that's just a question of funding when projects get completed and when there's an opportunity where funding becomes available to add another project to the TIP. Currently, we're just working on completing the existing projects that's in that E+C network, that 150 million that was identified. And once we can get those projects under control and get those completed, then we can have a discussion on which projects move ahead from that standpoint.
All right, so and we again go to that long range plan, you can see the priorities.
Yes, sir.
And we can see that all the counties represented, I guess, in that plan, Mr. Frank. Everybody's represented here, with including 3 from Kershaw. So we're getting there, Mr. Burns, is what I hear.
Yes, sir.
All right.
Well, no, you're not. No, you're not.
Yes, sir.
Reggie gives me that answer every year. I'm not going to be a Scrooge here. He has seen my letters, and I'll send them to you as well. It's minimal and unhelpful, and I would like to have some more progress. I'll send you a letter. Thanks.
Okay, very good. Mr. Brigham, do you have a question?
Yeah, I did. And for the record, I have a question that original, we talked about this, and I saw Pond Ranch Road on page 25 of enclosure 9. At the bottom, it's a 9-mile stretch. But then I looked at the direction it's going in, and it's going south, which is fine. It was needed too, but north is really very bad, heading toward basically Leesville. It's about an 8-mile stretch. So if we did a 9-mile section the other way from I-20, the one toward V&L needs to be considered as well. It's one road. It's just one road that's been split up in this section and that section. So just for the record, I'd like to mention, we sure would love to have some funding, but at 8 miles north of I-20, headed toward the municipality of basically.
It needs it is back or more.
And I'll follow with District 1 engineer for DOT to find out what the status of that project is.
So, all right, any other comments? All right, a good discussion there. And is there a motion to approve the 2021 annual listing of obligated projects?
So move, Mr. Chair.
Right, and I'm not. Mr. Livingston, Mr. Livingston. Motion, Dr. Raines with a second. Okay. Second, any other questions or discussion? If not, if you're in favor of this, please say aye.
Aye.
And opposed?
No.
Mr. Hudson? And that passed. Someone else? Someone else vote no?
No.
Mr. Burns, all right. All right, but the ayes have it, and that is passed. Item number 10, announcements, committee of staff reports, correspondence, executive director's report. Mr. Ben Malden.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a couple quick announcements. The South Carolina Department on Aging recently came and did an annual review of our aging program, a financial review. SCDOA staff came in November. It was a positive review, and I'd like to thank both AAA Director Candace Holloway, all the aging staff, and the finance team for doing a great job on that. You've also heard me mention some of the hard work during open enrollment, and I want to thank Sheila Bell Ford and Joanna Davis for assisting the seniors throughout open enrollment. They helped over 570 folks during this period of time, so it's a great deal of work, and they did a great job as well. We also had a successful 2021 virtual CMCOG conference. I had sent that information out to you a couple of weeks ago. That was an online conference. There were some great presentations that I'm going to share with you on electric vehicles, what's happening and what to expect in the future. There was an update on the national and regional economic update by the Federal Reserve Bank of Richmond. And then the NATO actually did another update on the impact of COGS during the pandemic. All the presentations were very good. We had a few board members that were able to attend. Also, I think, enjoyed the information, and I'll share those presentations this afternoon. Finally, just want to wish all of you a happy holidays. I always want to thank our board members, our member governments, and all of our partner agencies. From all of the CMCOG staff, we look forward to your support in the future and working with you in 2022.
Very good, Ben, and the board thanks the staff for all the outstanding work and wishes you all a Merry Christmas as well. Appreciate it. All you are doing a lot of good reports. All right, next meeting, Ben, we do not have a place for Dr. Ranks looks out for so well, but he's already booked up for January. So
I do think my office is looking for another alternative for you, but we'll see.
okay, very kind. He's had his staff book us up for the spring. After that, I booked up February, not March, but April, June. So let's get going.
Introduce quickly our Dean of our Health Science Program, Dean Candace Doe. She's available if you're interested in looking at some of our great facilities and meeting some of our wonderful faculty and staff. As I said earlier, our nursing program, our health science program are the best in the country. So Dean Doe will be glad to show you around if you're interested and got time to do a tour of the facilities.
Well, thanks for what you do and having that shining light nursing program. And thank you for being here with us today. And I'll take that tour. That's great. We appreciate you. All right, and one more thing, Mr. Bell had mentioned a couple months ago that the infrastructure bill passes, we need to maybe have some type of education about it. And so we're still working on that. I think it's a good idea. You know, the infrastructure bill is going to pass. We need to get as much as possible to all our member governments in the Midlands. And so Ben and Reginald and I talked about some ideas. One, for example, I don't know if Mayor McDougal's from Lexington on, but Kathy Manis, Lexington County City Councilman, was on the National League of Cities board. She was the president, just finished up. She might get us a speaker from Washington online, for example. But we need to, we're thinking of a lunch and learn, Ben, maybe January or February, and try to figure out, does that sound, would y'all be interested? Maybe online, and if any of y'all administrators, y'all have some good ideas, we'd be glad to hear what y'all think we ought to do. So we're gonna try to do something to educate us so we can go for some money. All right, does anybody have anything else? Old business, new business, other business? If not, at 1:16, we will take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second. All in favor, aye? Aye. Opposed, we adjourn. Thanks for coming online today too.
Rusty, I need to share with you,
Yeah.